I am originally from Angelo, California. I grew up in a big family of 9, 7 kids. I am the middle child. My brothers and sisters used to call me 3 up, 3 down because I was number 4. And as a kid, I always believed that challenges were a fact of life, and if you take them head on, you'll be better off for it. And my dad was a Marine and a Teamster, truck driver, and he instilled these 2 values in me, and these are values that I've held on to my entire life. And the first one was never forget where you're from, and the second was always give 100% of your heart and soul. And so I've used those 2 values to guide me through some of the toughest challenges out there. And I'd say the first big challenge I had is I got kicked out of high school a month before I graduated. Everybody always asks, like, what did you do? How did you get kicked out? I won't go into that, but I will tell you this much, that at that point, I really felt like the world was against me. And so my dad, who was a lifelong Teamster, he got me a job working the graveyard shift from 6 at night to 2:30 in the morning, loading trucks for Seagrams. I drove a forklift, cherry picker, worked the conveyor, the production line, all that. And I was a Teamster until I heard this voice in my head that said, this is not for you. And at that point, I really, that was the turning point for me. It was once I heard that voice and I became sort of more connected to that voice, that's when everything started to change. And so from that moment on, I decided to give 100% of my heart and soul towards realizing my creative destiny. I went to college during the day, went to 3 different colleges, from community colleges to the Academy of Art College, which is where I ended up graduating. I did that for 10 years while working the production line. And during that time, I was just received a postcard in the mail that read, "Do what you fear, watch it disappear." And I thought, wow, what a great card. A great inspiring quote that I could really relate to. And so I put it on my refrigerator. And every time that I was presented with a challenge, I would just look at that card and do it. And so after graduating from college with a degree in advertising, I could have certainly stayed home in San Francisco and made a living there, because there's a lot of great ad agencies there. But instead, I opted to follow the card and do what I fear. And I ended up moving to New York City to take on the Big Apple with just a 10-speed, a basketball, and a sleeping bag, and a very big dream to be hopefully one of the best art directors in advertising. And so I got a job on Madison Avenue working for a place called DDB. And I had studied, throughout college, I'd studied this one style of advertising that was done by a man named Bill Bernbach. And I don't know if you remember Bill Bernbach, but he's the legend. And so that when I eventually interviewed at DDB, I had no idea, I never connected the 2 together. And then once I accepted the offer, I walked out of the executive career director's office and saw all of the same work that I had studied up on a wall. And I knew instantly right then and there that I was in the right place. I created a campaign with my partner for the New York Lottery. The tagline was, "Hey, you never know," and it's still running today. And that campaign kind of launched my career, gave me an opportunity to win awards, and also just a taste of what it's like to be successful in this business. From there, I got a call from, or my partner got a call from Bill Clinton, Stephanopoulos, to come and work on their campaign in '92, which we did, and that in itself was an amazing experience. And throughout all of that, I kept looking at myself, and I kept thinking, like, how is this happening? How did I end up here? How did I go from being this kid who got kicked out of high school to all of a sudden I'm walking on the railroad tracks in Hope, Arkansas with the next president of the United States? I mean, how did that happen? And so I just kept listening to that voice that said, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then he won, which was pretty amazing. I got this incredible picture of the 3 of us standing on the railroad tracks in Hope. And then I got a job at Chiat Day working for Lee Clow, who's probably one of the greatest legends of our business, and did that. Moved out to LA to work at a place called Team One on Lexus did that for a year, and then I moved back to New York for like 6 years to work for one of the greatest creative minds of our industry, Cliff Freeman. He's the guy who came up with Where's the Beef and Sometimes You Feel Like a Nut and Pizza. I'm a true sort of legend in every sense of the word. And what I learned from him was that while most people were looking for the formula for funny, he would simply just say, I'll know when I laugh. And I thought that was the most brilliant way to describe comedy, is that it's not this formula, it's not this sort of thing that you find in a textbook. It's this visceral sort of thing that just makes you feel something once you hear something that's funny. So I worked with him for 6 years, and then my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I didn't want to miss out on their first year, so I quit, and it kind of blew everybody away because I was at the top of my game. And if my father ever knew that I left a job where I was making a lot of money just to take time off, he would have killed me, because he was a lifelong Teamster. And then I'm just kicking back in New York City, hanging out with a recruiter and wondering what my next move's going to be. And she basically just said, I have a feeling that something is going to present itself to you. And sure enough, I get a call from Kia Motors in November of '99 asking me to do the one thing I've always wanted to do, and that's create my own agency.
How'd I end up here?
You're behind the wheel of the next generation Optima. Its sophisticated interior has put you in the zone.
Yeah, that makes sense. How'd you end up here?
Well, I'm making a PB&J.
You got in the zone by making a sandwich.
Yeah, but it's textbook. I mean, look at the peanut butter to jelly ratio.
My advice to people who are just getting into this business, I would say, first and foremost, without a doubt, create your own manifesto for yourself. Have a clear idea of who you are and what you stand for. Once you do that, then not only do you have a greater sense of self-awareness, but then it's going to be used as a filter for everything that you do, from the type of place that you work, from the type of mentor that you work for, the type of parties that you throw, the type of friends that you hang out with. Do that sooner rather than later, right? So that's my first piece of advice. 2, don't ever chase the money. Yeah, I hear so many stories, and I understand why you would chase the money, because you've been going through college and you probably haven't had, a pot to piss in or anything like that, and you're looking to sort of establish yourself in the real world and all that. Don't worry about it. Do the right thing. Follow your heart. Find your mentor, and work your ass off. But don't ever chase the money, because if you do the right thing, everything else will follow. The money, the awards, everything. The last thing that you want to do is get stuck at a job that you took, your first job that you took for the money, and end up staying there because of the money 10 years later and have all the regret of not being able to do great work because you settled for a bigger paycheck in the beginning. I remember when I was a kid and 11 years old, and I was playing in Little League, and I used to really worry about whether or not I was going to hit the ball. And I would lay in bed at night just not to be able to sleep. And at some point, a voice came to me and said, just give it your all and just leave it out there, leave it on the field. Even if you go 2 for 4, just know that you gave your best shot, etc. And so that philosophy, that mindset, has followed me throughout my entire life. Whether it's starting an agency, give it your best shot, and just give 100% of your heart and soul, and just leave it. And whatever happens, happens, because everything happens for a reason. As long as you give your best, you have no reason to regret anything. So if starting an agency, give it your best. If it doesn't work out, move on. Go give something else your best. If coming up with an idea and for some reason it doesn't work, well, you know what? I mean, here's the deal. If you are a creative person who values the notion that creative ideas can come from anywhere, then you know what? You're more than just one idea. And so I would hold on to the idea for as long as you can, and if it doesn't work, let it go. Just know that you gave your 100% of your heart and soul to creating it and championing it, and then just know that there is a endless toy chest of other ideas that you can access. I just had this conversation the other day about the 2 things that I believe govern everyone's choices. One, it's either love or fear. And so why do we go to fear? Why do we go for fear? Most people who go towards fear is because they lack love. Whether it's how you feel about yourself, that you lack awareness, self-awareness, you don't have enough confidence in yourself, which makes you fear other things. But the way I see it is that you can be afraid and just crawl up in the corner and just sort of cower and imagine the most worst thing happening, or you can look at fear as an opportunity to grow. And that's the way I see it. Fear is a gift. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something you just look at and you go, okay, it's go time. Let me look at this a completely different way and try to shift the way that I look at things. My biggest Goliath is patience. And when you have a clear idea of who you are and what you stand for, and you just want everybody else to embrace the same sort of thing. And so I'm very impatient in regards to people getting there. And so I would say that keeps me up. Another thing that keeps me up is it's definitely not losing, because I look at that as being a gift as well. I guess fear of not being able to sort of tell the story that I want to tell. Like I won't have enough time to do it. Before you can tell your clients to live their brand, you have to live yours. And so having a name like David and Goliath, it's not an easy thing. You kind of have to live it, right? And so what we do is we ask each and every person here to frame their biggest fear, their biggest Goliath, and put it on a wall to serve as a reminder of what they need to overcome. And we do so because it enables our people to step outside of their comfort zone, knowing they'll be better off for it. But once they remove that fear, that Goliath from their life, then they realize there's this huge sort of void that it used to occupy, that has freed them up for all kinds of stuff: confidence, creativity, positive energy, whatever that may be. So it's no longer the thing that's holding them back. It's now freed them up with more power and more energy and more sense of self that will enable them to do even bigger and better things. My definition of success is never calling this work. There's an old adage, if you do what you love, you never work another day in your life. And I believe that when I walk out of bed, or when I crawl out of bed, or roll out of bed, it's as if I'm going from one room to the next, when I go from my house to here. So there's no real difference between the two. I am living my brand when I'm at home, I'm living my brand when I'm here. And that comes down to being, or having a clear sense of who you are and what you stand for, so that you don't have a disconnect throughout any aspect of your life. So my definition of success is living your brand 24/7 to the point where it doesn't feel like you're ever working. You're just being you.